Hey guys, it's Tony, and welcome to another edition of the Movie Mouth. Um, Today we're going to be talking about yet another TV show, and not a movie, and yet another Netflix show. Um, as I said in my Daredevil review, Netflix is coming out with some pretty good shows as of late. This show and Daredevil came out in October, and Narcos Mexico just came out, which I plan on watching and reviewing on this channel as well. So I haven't really watched many new movies because not only did the shows look good, but shows take longer to watch. 10, 13-hour seasons. And you get hooked on them. So I didn't really know much about this show. I just saw the trailer a couple weeks before Halloween on Netflix and became intrigued because the trailer, as you're seeing right now, is excellent and terrifying. Um, and I had heard of Hill House from the late 90s adaptation with Liam Neeson and Owen Wilson, which was absolutely terrible, so I was a little skeptical, but it definitely looked good and terrifying, and I was looking for something new and um, terrifying to watch around Halloween time, so I gave it a shot, and immediately you're hooked. The first episode just catches you. It's filmed differently in that it's filmed like a 10-hour long movie rather than the first season of a TV show. Now, there's already talks to do a second season just because of how popular and how well received this show has been, but I really hope they don't because the show definitely has a beginning, middle, and end to the story. It kind of wraps it up pretty nicely at the end. So I really hope that they don't do a season two, but who knows? With if enough attention and money is involved, they'll always do sequels. So that's kind of sad. But this show was adapted by Michael Flanagan, who has done a lot of things I like. He did Hush, which was underrated. It was pretty good. And he did Oculus, which is the same, and Gerald's Game, which I heard it here is excellent, but I haven't seen. But he also did Oculus, the sequel, which is garbage. So, but you can't have a hit every single time, I guess. Um, this show is fantastic. So you should get all the praise in the world for this. Um, the show follows the Crane family. Hugh and Olivia Crane are the parents. They buy, fix up, and flip homes with their family, which I don't know why you would want to do that. Living in the houses that you flip, because you're just bringing kids along for the ride, and that's got to do some damage long term. But the show flips back and forth from the past to the present seamlessly, and always in service of the plot. It doesn't seem to do it for no reason, which I appreciate because some movies do it, and it sometimes they just do it just to do it. Um, the first 5 episodes of this show are fantastic in that it shows the traumatic event that starts off the show in the point of view of each of the 5 siblings. Now, they grew up in this Hill House after their parents bought it and planned to fix it up, and obviously Hill House is haunted with its own demons, and it affected their entire lives. A lot of horror movies you watch, and you see a kid who's tormented, and the family dies or whatever, and they survive, and you're like, wow, I bet that kid's gonna be messed up the rest of his life. But they don't show it obviously because it's only a 2 hour long movie. This show is like the epitome of that. It actually shows how something like that will affect a kid later on. Um, so there's 5 of the kids: Shirley, Luke, Theodora, which they call Theo, um, Eleanor, which they call Nell, and Stephen. So the first 5 episodes goes through each one of the kids and their point of view of that traumatic event and how it affected them and how they viewed that traumatic event. And one cool thing that I didn't know about when I was watching and didn't realize until I did a little research after, and I guess the stars of the show didn't even know it when they were filming it, that the each one of the kids um, in their personality, the way they're acting in regards to the event, and the tone of each one of their episodes reflects one of the five stages of grief. Um, Steve's was denial, Shirley's was anger, Theo was bargaining, Luke was depression, and Nell was acceptance. So I don't know if that's kind of a spoiler, but I'm going to get into spoilers for the show anyway. But if you're interested in watching the show, I'm going to give you a heads up before I get into spoilers because it will ruin the show for you. But so well, I guess I'm going to get into spoilers now because there's not much left to talk about. I mean, the show was fantastic. I mean, I guess I could say a few other things. There's a episode later on in the season in a funeral home where they do one long continuous take, as I was saying in my Daredevil review that they had that. This was one of the best long continuous takes I've ever seen. I mean, Birdman had a lot, but there were cuts in between. They were just seamless and you couldn't tell. But this one went from the past actors when they were kids to the modern current day actors and back and forth in one continuous take, and they went to different rooms. I mean, you could tell it was choreographed almost like a sitcom, but it had to be. It went on for like 20-25 minutes. It was pretty outstanding. I was very impressed at the first half of that episode. Um, but I mean, at this point, I can't really talk about. I mean, I could also say the performances in this show are pretty good for the most part. Um, there's some supporting characters, as always, that aren't the greatest, but I think the main characters of the show all do a really good job. Now I'm probably going to be getting into spoilers here. The show Um, it's pretty terrifying. There's a lot of hidden ghosts throughout the show, but there's the main ghosts that haunt the main characters, and basically what it boils down to is the home is haunted for various reasons and by various ghosts, and it's, you know, taking hold of this family and trying to destroy it. Um, and what it kind of does is convince you to kill yourself or others in the home, so your spirit will be trapped inside. And then once one member of your family is killed inside the home, it's unsure either that spirit is trying to convince the rest of the family to take their own life or die within the home to be with them forever, or if the house is just using that person's spirit to attract them to come there. But there was kind of a time travel aspect in this show, which is kind of crazy. There's the Bentnet lady, which is haunting Nell like her whole life from the first day they moved into the home. And then come to find out in her episode, I think it was episode 5, later you find out that bent neck lady is Nell, and she ends up hanging herself, but not on purpose. Almost the house kind of and her mother spirit tricks her into doing it, and she was trying to warn her child self, but it was essentially just haunting her child self, which was heartbreaking to see at the end of that episode. Um, but also that Luke, her twin brother, the mother, when they were kids, basically had a vision that the house was showing her that Nell was going to kill herself and Luke was going to overdose. And then it ended up almost coming to pass as they become adults. So I don't know if the house can tell the future or anything like that, but that's pretty crazy. And the show's pretty good. I mean, Nell ends up, like I said, killing herself, but not actually. And that traumatic event is the funeral of Nell and the death of Nell, and the family gets together. There's a lot of drama in the show, but drama that is very interesting. So you get captivated by the characters and interested and actually care about what happens to them. So it doesn't seem like it's slow and drawn out at any point. Um, and then it essentially comes to a head when they try to confront the house. Luke goes there and to burn down the house, and the house basically his mother spirit, Nell's spirit. Well, I don't think Nell's spirit tries to, but the mother spirit in the house in general tries to stop him, and then everyone else goes to the home. The ending was good. I liked it. It kind of tied it up into a bow, and it was good, but I mean, I'm kind of torn on the ending because it's kind of a happy ending, which these characters deserve a happy ending. But for horror films, I actually really like, you know, scary, awful endings because it makes it more terrifying. At the same time, if they would have done that, it almost would have been cliche. Um, Essentially, they all get out of the house, but the estranged father ends up killing himself inside the house so he can be with his wife and daughter Nell, and then he exchanges his life to let the other four kids get out, and then the home stops haunting them, and they can move on. Um, I heard that Michael Flanagan had a more sinister ending. There's a red room in the show, which is basically like a hallucination. It can be whatever they want to be. So like the home will show them either what they fear or what they want to see, and they're basically trapped inside that room. Um, Michael Flanagan had an idea for an ending, and that it was the happy ending that we saw that was in the show. But then when turns out that the entire family is stuck inside the red room, and it's basically a hallucination, and they're basically all going to die. So that is, I feel like that would have been even better, even though it was a bad ending or kind of not a happy ending. I wouldn't say bad, but I felt like that would have been better. But any other ending other than those two, I think would have been worse. But overall, the show is absolutely fantastic. Probably the best horror show I've ever seen. I mean, I know American Horror Story is out there, but for the most part, American Horror Story is just melodramatic and it's the same actors over and over again, which a lot of them are great actors, but it gets tired. It gets old too. I know they cover different things and a few new actors come in and out, but I don't know. I mean, American Horror Story lost me on the very first scene of their very first episode on the first season when they had Adam Levine in the episode getting killed. I was just like, this show is going to be terrible. I ended up watching the entire first season, and it was average at best. And I've only watched a few episodes of the following seasons here and there, but it's not that great of a show. This show is light years better, and a lot of other people, including me, see correlations from this show to The Shining. It's not as good as The Shining. Stanley Kubrick is a master director, and The Shining is probably one of the greatest horror movies of all time. But this isn't too far off. This is probably this is definitely Michael Flanagan's best. I wonder if it's going to be hard to top this, but it's a fantastic show, and every horror fan or anyone who's in for a good family drama with horror aspects would definitely be interested in this and should check it out. Okay, guys. I mean, like I said in the Daredevil review, it's hard to give a show a rating, but this show was pretty consistent throughout, so I would probably give the show like a 9 out of 10. It was absolutely fantastic. So, but all right, guys. If as always, if you like what you hear, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. All right, see you.